All right, good morning, runners and guests. How are we feeling today? Y'all, come on. We're running the New York City Marathon tomorrow. How are we feeling today? I always got to ask twice. After months of training and fundraising, the best is yet to come tomorrow, Sunday, November 3rd. Over 1,000 of our Fred's team runners will be taking on the streets of New York City for the TCS New York City Marathon. My name is Matt, and I work for Fred's team at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, along with my colleagues Julia, Laura, and Ashley. We are so excited to celebrate with you today and everything that you've been accomplishing this season. Thank you. This team is special. It's made up of runners who are dedicating their race to loved ones, which could be spouses, siblings, children, relatives, or friends. Many have been personally impacted by cancer as well. This year alone, we had 6,000 people add their name to our wait list for an entry into the TCS New York City Marathon. With such a high demand to run this iconic race, we are just honored to have those that are running for us tomorrow and representing Fred's team and MSK. So we thank you again for choosing Fred's team. So to date, our 2024 participants have raised over $7.7 million for cancer research. And that is obviously because of everyone in this room. It's because of our runners who have logged countless miles. I've heard you've run a few this summer. You've worked so hard to raise over $7.7 million for research at MSK. And that money will help fuel possible new breakthroughs at MSK. And it is the hard work that you do every season that then gets translated to our researchers and doctors at MSK that move the needle forward. So we thank you again. And it's also because of your donors and supporters. The donors, thank you so much for contributing, but also for being there for your runners. It's a long training season. Depending on where you train, it's probably a little warm in those months. So we thank you for being there for our runners as well. So as I mentioned, we've raised over $7.7 million. There's so much momentum. We've done such an incredible job this season. And it's our job, but we're going to ask you to continue to push for more donations. As of this morning, we're less than $250,000 away from the $8 million mark. And yes, that is incredible. Gifts of any size help us get to this point. So we have large gifts and small gifts. Every gift matters, and we just ask you to continue to push because your impact brings hope, new cures to people around the world with cancer, and together we can continue to make a difference. So thank you again. For our runners, tomorrow is going to be such a great day. Today we wanted to give you a little bit of inspiration as well as your guests that are here with us. Today you're going to hear from two of your teammates, three of your teammates, but first Pauline and Aubrey, who will be running alongside you tomorrow, two of our MSK doctors, Dr. Vance Broach and Dr. Sarat Chandalapati, Dr. Broach is also running with us tomorrow, and then also your Fred's team coaches. So to kick off our speaking program, I'm proud to introduce an unstoppable duo, MSK gynecologic surgeon Dr. Vance Broach and cancer survivor Pauline Larkin. I've had the pleasure of working closely with them during the season, and as I'm sure you'll hear today, their bond is very special. Pauline was also just profiled in Runner's World magazine, so I'm glad that the rest of the world is going to catch on to what a rock star celebrity that we know she is. So please help me in welcoming Dr. Broach and Pauline.
Hi, I'm Pauline Larkin. I'm just so delighted to be here. I am the slowest ever runner to be featured in Runner's World, so let's just get that out there. MSK saved my life, and Fred's team and running has absolutely kept me sane. Let me take you back to January the 10th this year. I went to the doctor for questions about like menopause, right? Like I'm a little grumbly and bloated, and So on the 10th of January, that conversation moved very, very quickly, where she said to me, you have to get a scan immediately because something is definitely not right. That afternoon, I had a scan, and by the end of that day, I met my husband before we went home and spoke to our children, and I discovered that I had a 10 centimeter and an 11 centimeter highly suspicious masses, and they couldn't find my ovaries. So come into my living room in Brooklyn, and this is the game plan. My husband and I decide that we are going to be totally transparent with our kids who are 14 and 16 at the time, because there's going to be a lot of conversations about what on earth do we do. So we told them the news, and the conversation kind of involved a lot of, are you going to be okay, Mom? Are you going to be okay? Mom, are you going to die? And my son just went very white and then went very red and started to cry. We didn't know what to do next. So the next 2 weeks became part of, honest to God, the next 2 weeks became part of this amazing journey. I cannot thank MSK, the doctors, my friends, my family, and then laterally, like Fred's team and the relationship that I've formed with runners there in terms of helping me through this journey, because it has been incredible. So a week later, I am in MSK and I'm sitting opposite Dr. Vance Broach, and you said the only thing that I've ever disagreed with you. And I fundamentally disagree with you on this to this day. He doesn't know this, right? So I'm sitting opposite him with my husband, and Dr. Broach is going through what the game plan is. So we're going to get the gruesome twosome out, we're going to have a full hysterectomy, and I'm going to follow up with 6 sessions of chemotherapy. But he began by very empathetically sitting opposite us and saying, no one wants to be sitting opposite me in this room. It's not true. The only person that I would want to be sitting opposite at that time, in that stage in my diagnosis, was Dr. Broach. And his care for me and his team's care for me has just been absolutely extraordinary. So thank you so much, and thank you to the team. Truly, truly amazing. So the care, and the care in terms of the medical care, the amazing science that there is at MSK is phenomenal. But the other thing that I've experienced through Team Ovary and beyond in MSK, and really thinking about Fred's team and family, but it's an extraordinary institution that gives hope and cure and love. That you can go, I have never been in an organization that has been so human-centric and so human touch. Give a shout out for billing. Who would ever think about saying that, right? In a medical, I was so full of fear. I was full of fear about the cancer. I was full of fear about the insurance. I was full of fear about the administration. Everything just works in this organization. It is absolutely incredible. But it also works with incredible care and love and compassion. So let me just share a little bit about what running has meant to me. Dr. Broach gave me the okay to run. I didn't know. So I've ran the marathon a couple of times, very, very slowly. I'm a really slow runner. And I was really curious about whether or not I could do it the same year that I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and that I was going to be going through chemo, which finished in June. And So Dr. Broach, when I said to him, I've applied for the marathon, I didn't get in, right? It was the lottery. And then I looked at Fred's team, there's this huge waiting list, I'm not going to get in. He's like, you know something? If anyone can do it, you can do it. Go on the waiting list, let's see what happens. So the medical support, but the cheerleading that I have had from people in Team Ovary and from Dr. Broach, just saying, yes, we just did this big surgery on the 26th of January, and yes, I think that you could run a marathon in November. For someone to believe in you that much is just incredible. Just like all the people that are supporting you believe in you for running this race tomorrow. So I was so fired up that this was going to happen, and I started to run. I had round 1 of chemo, and I ran 3 miles. And I'm going to tell you something about my experience with chemo, is that it kind of felt like my body had glitchy internet connection. And it felt like I had little gremlins jumping up and down on my bones, and then they would get to the end of my bones and they would just stretch them apart. And it was really uncomfortable. And I realized that if I ran, I could shake the chemos out of me. And it was just incredible to have this like agency of running and being able to, like literally I just talked to them. I was like, okay guys, let's do it. Let's go for a run. So running became this way of managing chemo. Then I connect with Dr. Broach on Strava. Thank you, 2 minutes, oh my gosh. I connect with Dr. Broach on Strava and I become friends with Team Ovary. And Mo Burns sends me this text. You don't know me, she's one of the doctors. You don't know me, but you're inspiring our team. I was like, really? And I know that Mo's an incredible, incredible runner. So suddenly for me to feel as a patient that I was doing something that affected the people that saved my life was unbelievably motivating. So I'm getting this extra cheers from this woman called Mo, who's just quite extraordinary. And then the other surgeon that was in the room with me was Dr. Price. And suddenly I'm friends with him on Strava. And he's cheering me on. And I run through chemo. And I run round 1 of chemo, round 2 of chemo, round 3 of chemo. I'm up to 10 miles. I really feel that I can do the New York Marathon. On the 6th round of chemo, my veins are a little shot. They're kind of like hard and gnarly. And I'm like tingly toes. And I have wooden feet. Mo and I run home from MSK to Brooklyn. We do a 5-mile run in our Fred's Team t-shirts. We run down the top of my street, and it's just incredible to have this sense of support and unbelievable connection with the people that saved my life. Like, you absolutely saved my life, but running has completely saved my sanity. As I've run, when I go on my runs, I get to process everything that has happened. And I've learned and I've heard that there are 3 prayers that we can say, and they're just one-word prayers. And they've been kind of crucial to me in this journey. So the first one is help. The second one is thank you. And the last one is wow. And I get to feel that when I run. I've asked for help, and it's been so important. I cannot express my gratitude enough, and I think about it every single time I run. And I really am caught with wow. I'm caught with wow and wonder. The wonder of being able to do this, the wonder of being able to pay back, that we're all doing tomorrow. I'm so, so happy about that. One last thing that I'd love you just to do with me for a second. Let's see if this works. We're going to run across the Queensborough Bridge tomorrow, and it's going to get really, really quiet. And we're going to hear our feet, and that's my moment. That's what my running mentor Mo said. Use that moment to check in. And so when I check in, that's when I'm going to be thinking, I asked for help. I am unbelievably grateful, and why we get to do this. And the sound that we're going to hear tomorrow when we run across that bridge, and you're thinking this, is our feet. Grab your hands and stick them in your legs. We've got this. We've all completely got it. I love you all. Thank you so much.
You're looking at a guy who cried at the end of Cool Running, so this is a little bit of a problem. And for that reason, I wrote some things down, so sorry for reading this. Well, I really can't describe what an absolute privilege it is to share this stage with Pauline. I've been running the New York City Marathon with Fred's team for 6 years, but without question, this year has been the most special for me. They say that marathons are actually run in all the hard work and the commitment and the training that you put in during the training cycle, and the race itself is just the celebration of the enormous accomplishment. And I don't think anyone more perfectly proves this than Pauline. I met Pauline in January of this year, as she mentioned, and that was around the same time that I was talking to Matt about signing up again for the marathon. And since that time, I've learned that Pauline is truly amazing and such a hero in so many ways. You just heard her story of training while recovering from major abdominal surgery and undergoing 18 weeks of chemotherapy. And I really can't stress how remarkable and really sort of unbelievable that is. The physical and emotional toll that this diagnosis and the treatment takes is enormous and indescribable. And training for a marathon under the best of circumstances is an accomplishment that very, very few people ever realize. And having the determination and dedication to do this while you're actively undergoing cancer treatment is breathtaking. It's amazing. Your physical commitment over the past year is incredible on its own, but Pauline has managed to take this one step farther. She has sort of changed the way we understand the stages of grief. Pauline has navigated this unbelievably challenging time and come out on the other end not with a sense of acceptance merely, but somehow gratitude for the experience, which is something you shared with me the last time we saw each other in the office. And I still don't really have a way of wrapping my head around this, but somehow you've made that gratitude permeate every interaction that I've had with you from the very first day we met to the most recent to today. It's remarkable that in instances like when you ran home from your last chemotherapy with Mo, or when we were able to run the 5K Teal Run together, you said to me you weren't grateful to be able to do it. You were grateful that you went through this and that you were now having these experiences. And again, I don't know what it is that allows you to have that sense of gratitude, but if we could bottle that and give it to everybody, that'd really be something. Pauline is also amazing in how kind and compassionate you are. As Pauline mentioned, while we were training, we became Strava buddies, and there's absolutely no one who can give a kudos or leave an encouraging word faster than Pauline. It's like Guinness World Record stuff. I would do a run and finish at like 4:30, and then bam, kudos. It's like right there. So I don't know if you realize how truly encouraging that is, though, and how much fun I've had training for this with you over this past summer. Also, speaking to Pauline's kindness, I don't know if you've had a chance to see her race shirt, which she's wearing today, but she's taken down the names of every person she interacted with at Memorial Sloan Kettering and written them on the back of her shirt. And, sorry, I hope you understand that, you know, the people who you interacted with, including the people who are at the front door who are on the back of your shirt, how much that means to all of us, and how lucky we've all been to be a part of your life in this way. I've said Pauline is amazing in a lot of ways, and one way that I'm not sure she's even aware of is that the perspective that you've given me about the work that I do. I'm a type of surgeon called a GYN oncologist, which means I specialize in treating patients like Pauline with ovarian cancer, but also other gynecologic cancers, uterine, cervical, vulvar, and vaginal cancers. The surgeries we perform are often pretty extensive. They can last 9-10 hours, and they leave patients with challenging, onerous recoveries. And then the subsequent treatments like chemotherapy are also tough to tolerate and have lots of side effects. It's sometimes easy for us to let the impact of the work that we do, both at MSK and the fundraising, to see it sort of in an abstract way. And everybody's guilty of this. You know, we raise money, it goes to MSK and Fred's team, it helps patients, and that's what we do. And again, I've been guilty of this as much as anybody, but if you had any question about the impact of the fundraising that you've done over the course of this year, look no further. The research that's being done at MSK allows patients like Pauline to have less burdensome surgical recoveries, less toxic chemotherapies, and more effective chemotherapies, and be more likely to be cured because of the funding that goes to Fred's team. And so with that, I just want to say I'm so honored to be here with you, Pauline, and to run the streets of New York with all of you, and I'm going to be proudly wearing my Fred's team uniform, knowing that we've all made such an impact in so many people's lives. Okay, it's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Surat Chandarlapati. He's a breast medical oncologist and the Nadisi Foundation Chair in Breast Cancer Research at MSK.
All right, this is tremendous. I'm so inspired and thankful to all of you, to Fred's team, on behalf of a number of researchers who are receiving these funds, and 100% of the funds that you guys are raising are going specifically into research. And I want to talk to you a little about the research we're doing that I think is depicted of many of the types of research programs that are going on at MSK. As I said, I'm a breast cancer researcher, I'm a breast cancer doctor, and we treat patients with a lot of exciting treatments that have been developed over the last 10 years. You know, if you look at all those pink ribbons and all the sort of breast cancer research advocacy that's happened, you'd say, well, why do we still have a problem? The reality is that this is still the most common malignancy in women and still one of the leading causes of death in women. But we've made huge strides. I'll just give one example. When I started off in clinical practice as a doctor 15, 20 years ago, there was a subtype of breast cancer called the HER2 subtype of breast cancer. It afflicted mainly younger women. It was probably the most lethal of all the breast cancers out there. It was about 10, 15%. Research led to not one, not two, not three, but about 10 different treatments for specifically HER2 breast cancer. Once we understood what it was making that cancer go, all of us, really dove into research that led to all these new treatments. They were applied in very creative ways, led in no small part by MSK researchers and clinicians. And now, that's actually the subtype of breast cancer we most want to see for our patients because we have so many treatments for it. We have patients now who will present with a very advanced HER2 breast cancer, and we can very confidently say we have not just a few treatments and not just an expectation of a next year or next 2 years, but many years of life. And I think at this point, the research is telling us we need to start thinking about cures for these patients are cured. That's just unheard of, 15, 20 years ago. So I think that is entirely because of research. So I just want to first say that research makes a huge difference. So what are we doing in research today? What is my lab working on? One of the problems that we really, deal with in breast cancer, and I think increasingly in other cancer types too, is that our treatments work for a time and then they stop working. So they work for a couple of years, everything looks great, and then the cancer comes back as though we weren't giving any treatment at all. We also have patients in whom the cancer is completely undetectable, and then not a year later, not 5 years later, but 10 years later, the cancer can come back. We have patients who had cancer come back 20 years later. So there's a problem of some breast cancers, not all of them, but some of them, they are relentless and they will go quiet and then come back. How do we understand that problem? How do we develop treatments for that kind of sort of insidious disease? Well, it took a lot of the generosity of our patients. It took a lot of research funds in order to be able to really study that subset of cancers, collect samples, study that in the lab, develop models that just didn't work in a day or two, but you needed that sort of long trajectory. And we've been able to crack the problem, I think, of identifying which are these cancers that actually have the potential to come back. How do they come back? How do they resist the treatment? And this year, we were fortunate to be able to publish research on how breast cancers on this new treatment, these cell cycle inhibitors, arrest, but then grow back. How do they do that? How do they arrest and grow back? Some of them go quiet. They just are dormant, and they're in a deep sleep, and they won't come back. And this other group will look like they're asleep, but then they'll come back. What was the difference between these two? Because one set of patients is maybe cured and the other is not. Well, we found a specific protein that was really involved. We've developed now new treatments that are working on that protein and the pathway it leads to regrowth of cancers, this P53 pathway. And so we're sort of at, and we actually have clinical trials opening at MSK to utilize that knowledge. I'd say we're sort of at mile 17, right around where you're going by MSK. This work is not quite finished, but we've had some real important inroads into it. And your research funds are the inspiration. Your running is the inspiration. It helps us to be relentless because we're dealing with a disease that's relentless. And so thanks to all of you for the support and encouragement. And I'll be there at mile 17 cheering you all on. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chandler-Patti, for your inspiring words and being a part of this celebration with our community. I think I can speak for everyone in this room. We're proud to stand with you in this fight against cancer. And Dr. Broach and Pauline, wow, both of you, just such inspiring words. We're so proud to have you as a part of this community and family, as we like to call it. Cannot wait to cheer you both across the finish line tomorrow. Thank you again for being a part of this, and I think you both exemplify the power of this community and MSK. Over the past month, we've shared stories such as Pauline's on our social media channels as part of our Dedicate Your Miles series, sharing the stories of our runners, why they run, and support research at MSK. If anyone hasn't had a chance to view those yet, I'd please invite you to go to our social channels this weekend, especially tonight. If you have any nerves tomorrow, I guarantee you they will get you pumped up for race day and know why, and remind you why you'll be out there tomorrow. So before we bring up our next speakers, I just want to say a few words about our training program and our incredible coaches and mentors that have been out there with you, both in person and virtually if you're not based in New York, but you're in for the race this weekend. I think we can all agree this season has been a long journey, especially for those who will be running their first marathon tomorrow, which makes up over 50% of our team. So let's hear it for the first timers. So by your side all season long have been your Fred's team coaches and mentors. This incredible group, they are volunteers. They dedicate their time and effort to all of you to help you train for the marathon. This amazing group of coaches, they have helped thousands of runners across the finish line through the years, and tomorrow they will add another 1,000 to that list. Jeff, David, Tom, and Marcy, along with our assistant coaches, Arthur, Udi, Howie, and then our mentors, Abby, Diana, Edie, John, Kate, and Terry, have offered their guidance to help runners. There you go. They have offered their guidance to help runners successfully, not only successfully complete their races, but have the confidence to say, I can do this. So before I bring up the coaches, I would just like to ask any of our assistant coaches and mentors to please stand so we can recognize you. So now to give you some last-minute race day tips and inspiration, I'm going to invite our coaches, head coach Jeff Rochford and Marcy Glotzer, David Slutsky, and Tom Hansen to the stage.
Hey everyone, welcome. I know you're going to have a great day tomorrow. I just want to make one correction to Pauline. Okay, you are not slow. We always say that. There are no slow runners. There's just faster people, that's all. Okay. Also tomorrow, it's going to be inevitable, and this is for the first-timers and the veterans. You're going to come some point being like, why am I doing this? And you're going to have a little pity party for yourself. Pauline ran through chemo, so suck it up, okay? Now, we always like to say, trust your training for tomorrow. You've worked really, really hard for this, and you're going to have a great race if. And I say if, this is so important. We as coaches, we cannot stress this enough. You're going to have all this pent-up energy tomorrow morning, and you're going to be so excited. You got to hold yourself back, and you got to go out slow. That is the single biggest mistake amongst runners, is going out too fast and then just, you see those people, later miles, head down walking. Guarantee most of those people went out too fast. You got to hold back. The expression we use is painfully slow. You really want to feel like, God, I'm slogging here. Let your body warm up. Let the pace, your race pace, develop naturally. I guarantee you will have, if you do that, you're going to have an amazing time tomorrow. So please hold yourselves back. And the last thing I want to say to you, please also, I'm giving you these don'ts. Don't go out too fast. Like I said, you get to the Staten Island tomorrow and it's hurry up and wait. You're going to be there a long time. And then you finally get to your corral and you see these people literally running to the corral and fighting to get up front. It's not going to make a difference. I've seen people trip. I've seen people fall. Let them take your competition out. Hold back. Just relax, get there. And then once the gun goes off, same thing. We see people weaving in and out, in and out. It's already 26.2 miles. Don't add to it, okay? Stay the course, nice and slow, get into your pace, and have a great day. We'll be out there cheering you on and waiting for you at the finish. Have a great race. My apologies, Coach Marcy.
Hi. So I'm going to give my best piece of advice for our first-time marathoners, but this is true for everybody, and that is don't worry about the clock, okay? We've all been telling you through this training season that there is nothing like the thrill of running your first marathon, and you don't want to take away from that by feeling like you have to stick to some arbitrary time goal. Tomorrow is a celebration of you and everything that you've accomplished. There are going to be 1 million people out there singing and dancing and cheering for you like it is their job. So the only time you want to have tomorrow is a good one. And so high five all the little kids, acknowledge your fellow Freddies when you see them on the course. Go Fred's team, hey Fred's team, and that's going to give you a lot of power. And when you get to the finish line, because it is not a question of if, merely a question of when, we are going to be waiting for you. Because you are Fred's team, and you are all worth the wait. And now, Coach David.
Okay, so if you've done everything that Coach Jeff said, and you've done everything that Coach Marcy said, then the only other thing you need is to remember, stay hydrated. Make sure that you hydrate often, especially at the beginning. If you get dehydrated at the beginning, that will also affect your race at the end. It's better to hit every water stop in the first half or more of the race. If you're feeling good and it's not as hot of a day, which tomorrow could be hot or it could be not so hot, it depends. That's the weatherman in me. So make sure you hydrate, walk the water stations, do yourself a favor, don't be the lemmings that go for the first cup. Go to the end of the water stations. They're long. There's plenty of water for everybody. Go to the last station, take the cup, move over, pinch it, walk, drink it, and then make sure you get all the hydration in. You'll be so grateful towards the end of the race. And also don't forget your nutrition, whatever you've been eating. Don't try anything new, trust me. Been there, done that, not a good feeling. And then most importantly, the key to the race, I saw some first timers today I was talking to, and the race is really simple. If you keep moving forward, you're gonna get to the finish line. So go out there, have fun, and now Coach Tom.
Wow. Look at all these gorgeous runners. All right. Listen, I don't have any other tips other than what you've heard today. Trust your training, have a good time, and we'll see you at the finish line. I do have the extreme honor of introducing the next person, who is an inspiration to MSK, to all of us for many, many years. Out of my 17 years running with MSK, her mom and dad, or my mom and dad on Marathon Day, she is a beacon of light to all of us. I've done 40 marathons. Last year's finish with New York City Marathon, I was getting to mile 25. All of you will know this tomorrow if it's your first one. And I was doing all right. Not having a great race for some reason, but it's 25 miles. I know the finish is coming up. Here comes this little burst of energy next to me. I'm like, hey, Tom. Hey, Aubrey, how you doing? Oh, good, see ya. She kind of trucks by me. I'm like, oh. So I truck up behind her. And I get up next to her and I say, Aubrey, can I run next to you? She goes, yeah, of course. So we're running. We get up and we're past 26 and we're coming up to 26.2 and she goes to me, Tom, can you do me a favor? Yeah, of course, what do you need? Will you hold my hand when we cross the finish line? It was the best finish ever. All right? I guarantee you. So I have the pleasure of introducing the indomitable Aubrey Barr, who is running her 42nd marathon.
I'm so embarrassed that I said, see ya. But that's actually a little good runner understanding. Like if you're having a good moment, have your moment. You know, you feel terrible for holding somebody. If you're having a good day, just let it out, and we all understand that about each other. So thank you, Tom, for understanding. As a coach, for sure you understand. I would also say, Pauline, you can't possibly be the slowest. We call that the most determined. So keep that up. I'm Aubrey Adam Barr. My relationship with MSK began in 1971. I was 4 years old at the time. That makes me 15 years old. But when I was 4, I had a rash all over my body, which ultimately led to a diagnosis by our family doctor, who shared with my parents in tears that I had acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And the life expectancy was less than 6 months and a 10% or less survival rate. He did have a piece of optimism, and he said, the good news is we're within commuting distance of Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and they have the best available, so you have a decision of whether or not you'd like to pursue this, and if you do, let me know. And so my parents at that point made 2 very critical decisions. Number 1, to pursue treatment, and number 2, to keep this information completely closed and held within our immediate family. Because in the 1970s, it's never a good time to hear a cancer diagnosis, but in 1971, that was a really bad word, really, really, really bad, because there wasn't as much of a culture of survival that we're enjoying today. So that was a huge decision that these 2 parents made. And so it was really just my sister and me and mom and dad, and we just did it. So that began our first commute into New York, where I began the best protocol available. And as we heard earlier, the protocol and treatment worked for a period of time, around 1.5 years or 2 years, and then it didn't. And so with that setback, our doctors collaborated with the scientists and revised the protocol and administered that. Worked for about 1.5 years or 2 years, another setback. Revision, collaboration, 3rd protocol, worked for another 2 or 3 years, setback. 4th protocol, cured my disease, and is the mainstay leukemia treatment that gives patients the 80 to 90% success rate that we enjoy today. That happened at MSK. That's amazing, and that's what you get at MSK. You get the very best in the world. So at the end of this treatment period, I'm now 17 years old. It's behind us, By the way, my parents never used the word cancer at home. We just, going into New York, we all knew what that meant. So we just went into New York, and then it was suddenly a time when we didn't need to go into New York. So I went off to college, and I discovered a casual love of jogging, just to blow off steam. Enough so that I knew that when I graduated from college and picked an urban I grew up in New Jersey, very rural, and I knew I wanted to stick with a rural education and then try life in a city. And so running had become important enough to pursue a city with a very runner-friendly community, and so Boston was a no-brainer. Went off to Boston. By the way, in college, I heard on the news a report given by an MSK doctor about an amazing breakthrough, and the doctor was described, the subheading was Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. So I picked up the phone and I called my parents and I said, so what was all of that about? What was that 13-year thing? They didn't use the word. I had no idea what was going on, and I honestly thought that every little kid had something that they dealt with like that. It was sort of normal. And they explained the whole thing to me, and they said, we hope you understand it was age appropriate. What does a child do with that information? It's so abstract. And we needed to cope with it ourselves. So we hope this is all right with you, but that's what it was, but it's over and everything's fine. I said, okay, well, wow. What do you do with that information? That was a pretty intense, heavy load to have. And I thought, oh, it's too late in college. I'm not smart enough to become a nurse or a doctor. And what do I do? What do I do? What do I even do? So now I'm in Boston and I'm running, and I tried the Boston Marathon, and I ran in the back. You could do that in the good old days. I jumped in the back in 1991, and I finished the marathon. And I thought, well, that was amazing, but I need to come back and do this the right way. I need to run a qualifier and show up and do this the right way. So I applied to the New York City Marathon, and I got into the lottery, and with the acceptance letter came this letter of invitation to join the newly formed Fred's team. In honor of Fred Lebo, who was at the time being treated at MSK, would you consider dedicating your marathon to MSK and raise some money? And I called my parents and said, you will not believe this, but I'm going to run the New York City Marathon, and can you believe it helps MSK? This is what I needed. And that began the journey. The first couple of years that we raised money was for neuro-oncology in Fred's name. And then the hospital called all of the fundraising runners at the time, because there were only like 20 of us, for real, and called each runner and thanked us. And after about 4 years of these phone calls, the director of development at the time said, we have a new initiative, Aubrey, and I'd like to talk with you about it. We're focusing on pediatrics because it is a grossly underfunded entity. Not that people don't love and believe in children enough to help them through this cancer battle, but that it's such a narrow audience that it's hard to get funding justified and grants from Washington, completely understandably so. But that's not what a family can tolerate. That's not acceptable. So it's the grassroots funding that makes these unusual cancer treatments possible, which ultimately become mainstream treatments. So the hospital created the Aubrey Fund, into which funding for, if you're a Fred's team runner and you want to raise money for pediatrics, that's where it ends up. And then it's been amazingly dispersed in the past 27 years with some amazing information that is overwhelming to share at this moment. But that's how it all happened. So as my story relates to you, there's a clinical element and an emotional element. The clinical part is the obvious, where when you go to MSK, you get the very best care because there's a team approach to treatment. You get not only the brilliant mind that's taking care of you, but meetings about each patient and collaboration and ideas and instant changes if they're necessary, which is an efficient process for you. And at MSK, where there isn't an answer, at less than 10% survival rate, there were a lot more questions than there were answers for me and any other patient, especially at that time. So where there is no answer, there are ideas, and there's hope, and there's a belief that you will get there. Emotionally, what this means to you is that where there are no other words, you can let your actions speak through Fred's team. When I first started running with Fred's team, it was such an emotional journey and experience and load that I didn't wear the Fred's team shirt. I didn't ride the bus. It was a really solitary spiritual journey with my immediate family. And then over time, it felt comfortable to be able to talk about it. Those years helped me, and this experience, I'm sure, is helping you cope with both the joy and the grief that come along with this diagnosis, because we all know people, especially with Pauline, where there's such joy, and I am experiencing this joy, but in our same families, we know the grief. There is no family that's immune to that, including mine. And so we take this whole package, but we can do something about it through Fred's team, and through training, and through raising money, and through sweating it out in a marathon. We are making an impact truly in the future of cancer. And when you are in this adoptive family called Fred's team, you are now committed to a bigger purpose. And studies have shown, and my husband and I were just listening to a podcast recently, where commitment like that to a greater purpose literally translates to personal longevity. People live longer, fuller lives when they are committed to other people and other concerns, not just themselves. You, as a whole, represent the people that 80 years ago gave money and believed and had ideas and set up amazing structure in the institution at MSK. You are today's benefactors and generous donors. I turn to you without words and only actions. I think that's how 42 marathons happen, is when you don't have the words, but you can do that. So I turn to you and thank every one of you for effectively being the person and the people and the force that have given me not only a 5th birthday, the birthdays that followed, my husband, Jim, our 2 children. Our son is playing football in college, isn't here this weekend. Our daughter, our son-in-law, and their baby, Andrew, who's here in the back of the room. As our family has grown, so too has the Fred's Team family. I hope that you're a part in some way and in every way in next year's 30th year of celebration. Tomorrow is going to be an amazing day, and as the coaches were saying with all of their advice, I would also add to that, try to view it truly as your victory lap. Training is hard, and it can be solitary, and even when you're with other people, it can be really hard. Tomorrow is your pure victory lap. It is all about you and your amazing accomplishment and what you're doing for the patients today. Thank you so much for everything. I can't wait to be with you, bright and ugly in the morning for our photo, getting on the buses. I would like to close with this one final action that requires your participation if you're comfortable with it. If you are a survivor of cancer, will you please stand up and be celebrated? If you're comfortable with it. Stay standing. Please stay standing, please. Can you guys stay standing, actually? If you can, please stay standing. Please add to this amazing group. If you are a caregiver, please stand up. stay standing for just a second. Now, if you are a survivor who is running tomorrow, stay standing. The rest of you may be seated. If you are a survivor who's running tomorrow, that's why we run. Have a beautiful day tomorrow. Go Fred's team!
That's the act you gave me to follow, huh? Thank you, Aubrey, for your beautiful words. Can we get another round of applause for her 42 marathons? We're so honored that you've been running with Fred's team since the very beginning and very grateful to have you as a part of this community, so thank you. Thank you also to Jeff, Marcy, David, and Tom, as well as our assistant coaches and mentors. A few of them will be running with you all tomorrow, but the ones who won't will be sending you off at the start and catching you at the finish. We're very lucky to have all of you, so thank you for helping our runners along the way. For those who don't know me, I am Laura. I work alongside Matt, Julia, and Ashley on the Fred's team staff. Thank you. And so after working with all of you over the last several months, just wanted to remind you that we'd love to see your race day journey along the way. If you're posting any photos or any videos on social media, please do tag us and include hashtag Fred's team. We would love to see them and be involved in your day from the way that you are seeing it. To all the generous supporters in the room, I'll speak to you first. We can't thank you enough for helping all of our runners get to this point. All of the support that you've offered them over the past year really is so appreciated. Be sure to cheer on every Fred's team member that you see out there tomorrow because they could really use your support, and we're so grateful for you. So thank you for being here. Runners, as you lace up your shoes tomorrow, please know that we're so proud of you. We're so grateful to have you running with Fred's team, for your commitment to raising as much as you can to fund all this research that you've heard about from all of our wonderful speakers today. You inspire us every single day with every single mile that you run, every single dollar that you raise. We're so proud of all that you're accomplishing, and we cannot wait to cheer you on out there tomorrow. So congratulations, and have a victory lap, as Aubrey put it. As our namesake, Fred LeBeau, once said, there is a lot of satisfaction that comes with running a race, but the critical funds that this community raises from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center makes a difference that goes far beyond the finish line. We know that you're ready to take on the streets of New York City. Rest well today. You've got this, and we can't wait to see you tomorrow. Thank you.